If you've ever been to a museum exhibit and seen the wrinkled remains of a mummified corpse and thought, man, I wonder what that smells like, then do I have a weird news story for you. Researchers from University College London conducted a study to analyze the odors of mummies. They examined 9 mummies from Cairo's Egyptian Museum using a combination of high-tech tools and human noses. The research team employed gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and even an electronic nose to analyze the chemicals emitted by the mummies. They also used sensory analysts, also known as human sniffers, to assess the quality, intensity, and pleasantness of these 5,000-year-old bodies. Yeah, I did say pleasantness. Surprisingly, mummies don't smell like your husband's used gym shorts that have been sitting in the bottom of his duffel bag for weeks. Don't ask me how I know what that smells like. For years, experts and the general public have been fascinated by the smell of mummies. I was one of those kids who was always curious about things like ancient Egyptian history and mummification specifically. But the fact that mummies emit a pleasant odor was a new one even for me.
We have glasses to help us see better and hearing aids to help us hear better. Why shouldn't we have something to help us smell better?
We do, dear. It's called Chanel.
The human sniffers in the study describe the mummies as smelling woody, spicy, sweet, floral, and smoky. But why do 5,000-year-old dead bodies smell so good? It all comes down to the mummification process. Ancient Egyptian embalmers used a variety of fragrant materials during the preservation process. The oils and resins they used contain things like pine, cedar, frankincense, and myrrh. And even after 5 millennia, these embalming materials still emitted pleasant smells. This research isn't just about satisfying our olfactory curiosities, however. It provides valuable insights into ancient Egyptian practices. Embalming techniques evolved over time, so by identifying specific substances used, researchers can pinpoint when and where an individual was mummified. Along with that, the information will also help with the continued conservation of these mummies. The study's findings are also contributing to an interesting future museum exhibit called a smellscape. This will allow visitors to experience these ancient aromas firsthand, or first nose. So if you've ever had the morbid curiosity to know what a 5,000-year-old body smells like, you might soon have the chance to find out. And spoiler alert, it's a lot more pleasant than you might expect. Oh, and welcome to the Goodish news channel. I'm Ashley, your professional pessimist. In an effort to be more optimistic, I'm bringing you news that isn't terrible. If you're tired of the same old depressing news cycles, then you're in the right place. Because here, I ignore all the bad stuff and only bring you news stories that won't leave you feeling worse than when you got here. Also, if you end up enjoying this video, please give that like button a click. It would really help me out, and you'll have done your good deed for the day.
Your mummy, wasn't she a woman?
I never had a mummy.
What's your father do? Win you in a crab game?
What's the matter?
I thought you were gonna slap me.
This next story features an animal after my own heart. Blossom the possum has a sweet tooth, and she's not above breaking and entering to get her fix. Kim Doggett, a Nebraska resident, purchased a chocolate mousse cake from Costco, and when she didn't have enough room in her freezer, she decided to store it on her back deck. Side note, if you haven't lived in a cold climate, you might not know this, but for people who live in cold areas, this is pretty standard practice when you're in a pinch for freezer space. If I had $1 for every time my mom put leftover meals on the back deck. Anyway, later that night, Kim's son went outside to put more goodies on the deck, but immediately ran back in when he saw what was snoozing on the patio furniture. It turns out Blossom just couldn't resist that Costco chocolate mousse. Same girl. Blossom didn't stop with just one dainty piece. She ate the whole thing. Kim and her son tried to shoo away the possum, but Blossom didn't budge. As you know, chocolate can be deadly to dogs and other animals, and Kim was worried this was also the case for the possum. She called the American Humane Society, and they came and picked up Blossom and took her to be evaluated. In a wild twist, wildlife officials are crediting Blossom's overindulgence for saving her life. It's not every day you hear that one. It turns out Blossom was suffering from lead toxicity, but thanks to her poor eating habits, she's now being treated for the condition. Lead toxicity can occur when an animal ingests lead-containing objects or materials. Sometimes it can also be picked up through contaminated soil or vegetation. This can lead to neurological, gastrointestinal, and cardiovascular effects, among other things. Blossom was breathing heavily and very lethargic, which explains why she didn't move off the couch when Kim tried to scare her away. It definitely didn't have anything to do with the Costco chocolate cake. Nebraska Wildlife Rehab is taking care of Blossom, and they posted the story on their Facebook page. The comments were pretty great as the public rallied around Blossom and offered messages of support, including, "I have also begun to breathe heavily after eating an entire cake by myself. I relate to this possum on a spiritual level, and I'll do it again too." Here's to hoping Blossom makes a full recovery, and while I would say lay off the chocolate cake, in reality, Blossom just needs to lay off the lead paint chips.
Do you have your lucky lead nugget?
Always. A lead lick a day keeps the doctor a...
As we all know, Cancer sucks, but pancreatic cancer is on a whole other level. It's the schoolyard bully who will pull your pants down and then steal your lunch money just for funsies. Steve Jobs, Alex Trebek, and Patrick Swayze are just a few of the notable people who have died from the disease. It's one of the deadliest forms of cancer, often diagnosed too late for effective treatment. It has a survival rate of just 10%. The key to successful treatment is early detection, and scientists have made a major breakthrough on that front. Researchers at Oregon Health and Science University have developed a new test called PACMANN, short for Protease-Activated Magnetic Nanosensor. This test can detect signs of pancreatic cancer in just a single drop of blood, even in the early stages of the disease. Pancreatic cancer is notoriously difficult to spot because it has no obvious symptoms until it's in the advanced stages. Unlike other forms of cancer, there aren't any screening methods available to catch it early. But pancreatic cancer does have some unique molecular markers. Some cancer proteins are known for their ability to chomp or break down connective tissues, allowing tumors to grow. The PACMANN test is designed to detect one of these chomping proteins. It uses nanosensors made of magnetic beads linked to fluorescent molecules. When the nanosensor is mixed with blood from a pancreatic cancer patient, these proteins separate the fluorescent molecules from the magnetic beads, releasing them into the solution. Using a magnet, the researchers then pull any remaining nanosensors away, leaving behind the separated fluorescent bits, which glow under visible light. This glow indicates the presence of the chomping proteins, and therefore, the presence of pancreatic cancer. In initial tests on blood samples from 178 people, PACMANN correctly predicted cancer 90% of the time. Researchers are now working to validate these results in larger studies and are planning to start a clinical trial. The hope is that PACMANN could one day be a regular screening in clinics, much like a colonoscopy, but not quite so invasive, if you know what I mean. One of the key advantages of PACMANN is that it doesn't require specialized equipment. This means it has the potential to be used in underserved populations in areas that lack the resources of big, wealthy hospitals. With any luck, this new test will give patients the early detection they need to kick pancreatic cancer's butt. If you're looking for more good news in your life, be sure to check out my video from last week where I discuss a family of beavers that saved the Czech Republic $1.2 million, a woman who celebrated her 104th birthday by going to jail, innovation in climate research, and a giant of a dog that won Best in Show. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and we can continue to ignore all the bad news together.